For the last 2.5 years, I've used a Denali rod, 7-foot 4-inch lithium, and they just came out with the Lithium Pro. Now, I like this rod. I'm comfortable with this rod. It is my rod of choice. They also sponsor me, so the reason I even found out about this rod was because it was in that lineup. But I've used it a lot, and I think a spinning rod to me is like a baseball glove or a hockey stick. It is very individualistic, and you have to find a rod that you're comfortable with, that you feel comfortable with. One of the things I will say with this rod that I really like is it has a really stiff back, a strong backbone on it with a fast tip. And I'll tell you why that's important. You can get owned on a spinning rod, a 7-foot, a medium action spinning rod. We just went over where we're fishing this thing. We're fishing it around bridge pylons, we're fishing it in marinas, we're fishing it around rocks, we're fishing it around docks. Lots of opportunities for 3+ pound fish to break your heart on that. I learned that the hard way on Table Rock 2008, it was either 18 or 19 in a Costa series, Toyota series now. I was throwing a wacky worm around the docks, and I was throwing a 6-pound test and a 7-foot medium rod. And it was fine when I was catching the 15 or 16 inchers. And on Table Rock, that time of year, those big largemouth were suspended. Some were pre-spawn, some were spawning, some were post-spawn. Just a great time of year for a wacky worm, that May time frame. And I hooked a 4-pounder, and I got it up over the cross beam on the dock. And then it decided it wanted to go back through the cross beam. And I literally could not do anything about it, and it went back underneath the cross beam, wrapped me up, and broke me off. I said, well, I'll go up to 10-pound test. Now I'll be able to move them, still with that 7-foot medium action spinning rod. Same thing happened. I got a fish up, couldn't move the fish out, couldn't pull the fish out. I didn't have any way to move a big fish once I had it hooked. So that's how I ended up with the 7.4. It's kind of a little bit overkill. It's not like a flipping stick, it's still a spinning rod, but this rod has enough backbone that I can put anywhere from an 8 to 14-pound sunline shooter leader on it, depending on what I'm fishing and how much I have to move those fish. And yeah, it's still gonna be a goat roping contest with anything over 5 pounds, but you get that really quality tournament fish that most of them are, that 2 3/4 to 3.5 pound fish, the difference maker that gets you up over that 12 or 14 pound mark. And you can take a rod like this and actually move those fish away from the cover. And then when they decide to go back to it, you can keep them from going back in it with this rod. And there's 2 things that are gonna happen depending on your leader. You're either gonna break that fish off on your leader, and that's when you need to bump up, or you're gonna stop it, you're gonna turn it around, and you're gonna land it. But if you can't stop it, if you can't control it, it's a crapshoot. It's kind of luck. And once that thing goes underneath there, there's no skill, there's nothing. Now it's just luck. Is that thing gonna bounce around, get tangled up, and break off? So I'd rather put it in my hands with a 7.4. Day in and day out, my leader is going to be sunline shooter, 8-pound test. That's what I'm gonna start with, is 8-pound test. And a lot of the Dink and Dunk is predicated around water clarity that's 1.5 to 15 foot deep. You know, straight mud, it's hard to do the Dink and Dunk, but I have no issue with muddy water, with off-colored water, with tannic water. I especially like tannic water. A lot of success on the Dink and Dunk at the James River last year in the Open. But I'm gonna start out with 8-pound test. That's a good all around. I'm gonna be able to move the fish. I'm gonna be able to gauge in practice. I feel like in practice when I'm trying to figure out if they're eating a Ned rig or a wacky worm or a drop shot or a Nico worm, the 4 kind of tactics that I'm gonna go over. I think 8-pound test just is a good all-around test to get bites.
Bass U, folks. Information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning.